Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Urhobo World. Urhobo World was established as a cultural platform to promote the Urhobo culture globally. Tonight, we're working in partnership with Sparks Africa, which was established to promote African excellence, promoting people of African descent wherever they are born and wherever they live today, and the New Nigeria Post. Tonight, we're delighted to be joined by an artist that is fast gaining global attention, an excellent individual, a young man from Nigeria who is doing great works and has been known for his particular pieces using spoons, cutlery more generally, but specifically spoons. So I'm delighted to welcome Akporode Abinoro.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
You are very welcome indeed. Welcome to Urhobo World, and it's fantastic to meet you. As
Thank
I've
you.
said, your work has been quite noted for your creativity and for the particular instrument that you have chosen to use for your art. So perhaps what we'll do is start by just a quick introduction of yourself so that we know where you are from, who you are, and what has brought you to the art world. So let's just start with an introduction of yourself.
Yeah, my name is Abinoro
Abinoro
Akporode.
Abinoro.
I'm from Ugiri North local government area of Delta State, precisely from Agbaro. And I completely spent my childhood in Agbaro. So from there, I moved to the School of Art and Design, Auchi Polytechnic. So basically, the getting myself into art was something that I started getting in tune to as a young child. And there were basically no influence in terms of environment because Delta is an oil-rich state, so I think there's a lot of focus on oil and gas, and everybody, children will do oil, will go into oil and gas, but I've naturally had flair for arts, the tendencies to recreate things with my hands and stuff. So I basically started out my entire life with natural interests in art, the ability to draw and create things. Then I had a very rough beginning, to be honest, very rough beginning, because my father actually didn't like the idea of my doing arts, and later I got to understand that it was because he wasn't so sure that I would be able to have a secured future for myself doing arts, and it was difficult for me because he did all he could to stop my moving forward my interest in art. But of course, every child that had passion would fight hard in their best abilities. But those early experiences also bettered what most of the work that I do currently in the area of fighting, and wanting to express whatever that I felt as a young child, and so the tendency to be a bit rebellious towards him in his attempt to stop me from following my dreams. Where I engaged in basically making drawings on the walls of the house, also drawing on my notebooks because I think as a child I wanted him to see what I was doing, what I had love for, so at all costs he just needs to see it. So I'll make drawings on my notebooks, including my textbooks, then the walls of the house. So even though he will often want to beat me up when he sees me draw, but then I moved away from drawing on my notebook to basically drawing on the walls of the house, just to find a way to see what I was doing and maybe get to like it.
Great.
You-
I think we will come to touch a little bit on that in the sense of how art is valued within the Nigerian traditional context. I noticed you
Fantastic.
said you're from Ughelli South,
Really not.
Ughelli North, which of course is part of the Urhobo nation. So
Yeah, correct.
delighted. And of course, the Urhobo community have a great tradition of arts from all walks of life. So whether it's entertainment in the media sector, in music, in art like yourself, I recall our great artist, Bruce Onobrakbeya. Presumably growing up, you were looking up to these sort of individuals in our community that were projecting great art internationally.
Yeah. Well, I think that I was going to come to that because at the only points my father made recommendation or ever showed appreciation for art was when a friend convinced him, had a discussion with him one time and tried to make him see that there's huge prospects in being an artist. If he would let me practice what I wanted to do as a young child. And the only successful artist he mentioned that he knew, which to him wasn't enough conviction to let me follow my passion in art, was Bruce Onobrakweya, whom I never got to meet until I moved to Lagos.
Right. Okay, well, we will come back to that and touch on that a bit later. Just to a bit of a pause. So to our audiences who are watching from all over the world, you are most welcome. I know that we have people watching from the United States. Like to recognize my colleagues from Black Biz in Florida watching tonight. You're very, very welcome. And for everybody watching, this is a conversation with Akporode, and you're most welcome to ask questions in the comments. If we see questions in the comments, we will put those questions directly to him. So you're very welcome to ask your question. Thank you. Okay, Akporode, let's just go back into that sort of early beginning of your work. Now you're well known, and many people refer to you as the spoon artist, which I'm sure is a title you embrace willingly. But maybe just tell us a little bit about why spoons? How did you come about using spoons as your medium?
Yeah, my journey with cutleries, initially more of spoons, was as a result of the research that we had in school, where we had a lecturer engage us in brainstorming or thinking ideas that are not very conventional in art practice. So they wanted us to think through and find new materials, new mediums, that are not commonly used in art practice, which we call a non-conventional mediums. And we had earlier developed the practice of gathering up junk materials in our space as students, and often a time we'll spread them all out and literally study these materials and see what we can find from them. And I think it was in between those moments of understanding most of these materials, like the story of the Big Bang, that for the first time I had the clear picture of the handles of spoons being comparatively related to the feathers of birds. And that actually was the real moment that I started out my first piece, where I picked up the couple of the cutlery that I had and made my first cookware. Yeah, with spoons.
Right. So it was a cockerel that you started with as your first piece from spoons.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. And I think, I have seen your work, and I know many people have as well. But I think it's important that we show the sort of skill and talent that we're talking about here. So we're going to take a short break and watch a video of your work so that our audience can have a much more of an understanding of the pieces that you've produced.
Okay.
I have to say, looking at the pieces and looking at them come alive, I think they are an excellent array of work. And I can see in the comments some of our colleagues who are watching are saying, wow, such talent. Just give us your view of what you've seen of your own work and the sort of way those pieces come together.
Uh, to be honest, my creative process is currently very deep. You know, my earlier works were basically at those phase of my life. I was more concentrated on the skill and what I can do with the mediums. But over time, having worked with the medium for closely about 10 years now, you know, I've moved from major concentration on the medium, to become more deeply conceptual in nature. Because one thing, it's your ability, being conscious of your ability as an artist, but then what you're able to create with them, is a major thing, in terms of content. So right now my works are way more conceptual than I can ever imagine. Most time when I sit back and look at them, I actually have the habit of kneeling down and thanking the source of my ideas, and I'm grateful for what I've been given and what I'm being able to do with them currently.
Thank you very much for that. And I look at the pieces, and I'm sure many people have told you this, that it's very hard to imagine that all of those pieces came together from spoons, knives, and forks. So just thinking about that. I mean, you've talked a little bit about the fact that you saw the likeness of the spoon to the feather, but you've gone beyond birds. There are a whole
Yeah,
range of different pieces within
yeah.
that. Maybe just touch a little bit about that creative process of, as you said, is deep within you. But where does the inspiration come from? Does the vision come from for each of the pieces? And you might want to touch on specific pieces that are very close to your heart.
Yeah, my works are, like I said, are deeply very conceptual, and I'm someone who believes strongly in spirituality as an artist, and having awareness that what we give is in abundance from what we are given. And I give great respect and commitment to the source of my ideas completely. And like I said, I'm deeply a little bit spiritual, so my works are, I'm a very self-conscious person. So I'm aware of my environments, every day and every moment of my life. I'm always looking for pieces of information from my environment, so and being able to recreate some of these daily experiences and awareness, it's what's very important to me. Over the years, I've been able to learn, from just being an artist who is able to create mere images, to become an artist who is able to travel in between time. So more at the moment, I describe myself more as a time traveler, one who is able to travel into the past, live in the present, and actually take a dive into the future, to see what you can do, to solve problems, in the current time that we live in. And most of the pieces that I have from the Cosmic Man, which is a piece that completely elaborates time, man and the divine force, as a complete a circle of life. So for man to be complete, you need to be in tune with time. You need to be in tune with your your cosmic man, your divine force. And then you have pieces such as the Predictor. It's one of the things I must take of note is it hard to be an artist or to be a human that lives in Nigeria and not talk about the political state of Nigeria itself. In as much as we're trying to mellow down and not be too hard, but at the same time, I think it's completely hard to live in Nigeria because we're all completely affected by it. So the Predictor is one piece that completely elaborates the nature of the kind of political leaders we have in Nigeria and in Africa as a whole.
Let me just display that as you speak to it. Go ahead.
Yes, so you would find, looking at the piece, the strengths and the possessive nature of a predictor, which is a direct reflection of what we find in Africa of leaders that we have who are completely more concentrated on the power that they have rather than being able to influence people. So we have leaders who are not concerned about the needs of its people. And it's shameful to say that in spite of the amount of resources that we have as Africans and as Nigerians, especially as Nigerians, because I live in Nigeria, I'm Nigerian, we're yet to actually achieve a quarter of what we should achieve. We have huge natural resources, we have huge human capital resources, and yet we're still a struggling nation. And it's because of it's a defect in leadership, which is completely the nature of the predictor. The nature of the predictor is always to take, to conquer, and never to give. He doesn't give, he doesn't influence. Basically all he does is pull down and destroy whatever that is on its way, which for me is the nature of the Nigerian leaders.
Thank you for shedding light on that. I think people looking at the piece itself may not necessarily get that information and may just concentrate on the sheer beauty of that eagle, and just think about the beauty of it. But clearly, there's a narrative behind it, there's a story, and there's a message that you want to communicate. And I think that's why it was so important that we talk to you, because I think the sculptor becomes an artist when they start to reflect on the nature of things, on society, and that bigger message that you need to communicate. So I'm very grateful that you were able to share that story with us. I think what we'll do is briefly just go to some of the comments that we're seeing. So Sandra from the United States says she's got to see this work up close. Is it publicly displayed? So that's the first question for you. Are the works publicly displayed?
My works are, that was actually a piece that was part of my festival exhibition in 2019, and it was displayed for about 3 months, within the period of the exhibition. And I have some of my works in few galleries in Lagos. A little bit very intentional, but if you're interested in meeting my work, of course we can have that hooked up. Yeah.
Great. She also has a follow-up question. And I'm sure a lot of people want to know, because these pieces are larger than life. So they must have taken a lot of spoons to make. How many people's dining tables have you raided to get the spoons for the work that you've done?
My early works were more of recycling. How to source for most of the materials, by going to junkyards. But then as the ideas keep coming and the sizes are expanding, just to say that eagle is made with over 2,800 plus spoons, I think. And I have pieces that are way over 4,000 to 6,000 pieces of spoon. So it's difficult to collect. How many household will I have to visit to get those numbers? So I buy most of the materials from one of the major producers of cutlery in Nigeria currently. So I can get whatever quantity that I want.
We were all wondering whether there are children having to eat with their hands just so that art can be produced. But the art is very important, and even if that was the case, we will still celebrate it. Just to show a few more comments from our colleagues. So Joseph said, Urhobo to the world, and that you are a great talent. So there's many people celebrating the work that you have done, as are we all. We will come to some of the other questions later, but I think we will make some progress and talk about some of your other pieces. As people get to know you, they get to know what sits behind the artist, what sort of the processes you go through in coming up with your pieces. So this one is particularly interesting. It would be good if you can just tell us what's going on here.
This piece is titled "Mental Slavery." Like I said earlier, it's still about Nigeria, Africa as a whole, because we tend to want to represent a larger platform, the Africa that we are. And this is mental slavery. Mental slavery is influenced by my belief, personal belief, that our freedom as Africans, our liberation as Africans, is more mental than physical. And as long as we're yet to conquer the mental struggles that we have and challenges, we'll keep struggling physically to overcome our challenges. So our problems are more mental. Like if you have conversations with the average Nigerian about the future, there are a lot of people who doesn't have faith and confidence in the future of Nigeria anymore. People have completely lost it. And there are people who actually arguably tell you that it's not possible to have 24 power uninterrupted supply. But I keep arguing that some of these things are possible if only we can actually think it through and hold our leaders accountable. So that's like a pointer to make people see that for us to be liberated as a nation, we'll have to first conquer our minds.
We'll just show that piece one more time just so that people can see. I mean, I think from what you're saying, the intention is for this to be liberating of the mind. To show that whereas we may not necessarily be under colonialism, but certainly psychologically, we've got a long way to go in terms of liberating our minds.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you for that. So I want to come to another conversation, which is about the place of art within our culture as Nigerians. Clearly, as you said, as I've also described, to the Urhobo people, art is very much part of the culture, part of life, from the way we speak in terms of poetry to the things we create around us. But often, particularly these days, people may not necessarily project for their children a kind of area of study in art and stuff like that. So maybe just talk to us about where you see the place of art now within the Nigerian culture, within the African context, and perhaps globally.
Well, art is huge, I mean, we've always, Africans, art is our way of life as Africans, as Nigerians, and as an Urhobo. Art is completely our way of life. I can remember as a child, we often attend some of the festivals, in Agbaro. And I think I'm currently having a reflect of those time and trying to find ways to actually create a body of work in the direction of my experiences with some of the images that I've had as a child back home. So those are series that are forthcoming in a couple of years. So art completely has always been a way of life. But to because it's a way of life, we didn't see it as art. So it's more of, it's the way we live, creating, objects, and having deep meaning to them, has always been African and has always been Nigerian to us, but because we now, the world, like they say, is a global village. Art is beyond just the way we live. There's a bigger picture to art currently, and which is art is more about the value system, the value we create. Because why would the white man come to Africa? One of the first things they were doing was basically destroy our history by destroying everything that tells stories about our lifestyle. And they would take away some of the artifacts that we had, and demonize most of them, making us see that these things were demonic. Whereas they take them away from Nigeria or from Africa and have them all completely displayed in museums all over the world, where we pay hugely, to just see them. But the narrative of what they gave to us initially was that these things were demonic, and so we have Africans who go to shrines and destroy some of the evidence of the life of their fathers, and then you go to UK, these same things you call demons back home, you go to UK and you pay so hugely to see them, so there's a lot of misinformation. It's intentionally done to misinform Africans, so that, I mean, what's the better way to enslave a man than making me lose a sense of purpose, a sense of identity, So art gives you an identity of life, of human, but then once it's taken away from you, that essence of being human is completely taken away from you. So you find Africans who struggle now because the reason is very simple. It's because our sense of identity is being stolen over the years, and we're yet to actually sit down and look back and see how we can bring to life who we are in the first place. So what I've done with my work, it's try to reflect our identity as Africans.
Thank you very much for that. And I think it's very good to see that you are part of not just a young generation, but because I think if we go back to people like Bruce, as we've mentioned, a whole range of artists that are leading the charge to elevate African art, to make sure that it occupy its pride of place in the global narrative. It's really good to see that's part of the ambition that you have.
Thank you.
And of course, in recent times, you came into the notice of the wider world. So the BBC covered you. I know a number of newspapers and other places. You went viral on social media, and people now can see the extraordinary talent that goes into the work that you have done. So maybe again, just reflecting in terms of where do you see that your work sits in terms of the global art market? Are you present within the market? Are you selling? What's the situation for you in terms of the art that has clearly been recognized as some of the pieces have been called masterpieces? Where does that sit for you currently?
For me, I don't think I'm where I really want to be yet. Even as a very young person, my drive has always been to be able to attract a wider and global market and audience to my work, because art is a voice, and I think I have what it takes right now to do the attention of a global art market, in terms of my content, in terms of my skill, in terms of prospects, in terms of the value of what I create, So I'm hoping to get a wider platform, a better platform to properly showcase what I do, So it's, for me, it's still a work in progress, But at the moment, I'm not doing badly when you look at what's on play in Nigeria, But I still feel there's so much more because, like I said earlier, the world is a global village. So not until you're able to make a global impact, it's not enough. I think our stories need to be told more on a broader platform.
Great, thank you for that. And on this point that you made about our stories needing to be told, it's very clear when you look across all the different branches of art. Nollywood is making great strides. Afrobeat is very much dominant right now in the world stage, with a number of Nigerian artists winning Grammys and so on and so forth. Yeah. So I can clearly see that the opportunity is there to open up that space for Nigerian art as well. And clearly, you are far, far ahead than many other young people in your generation. I think I've seen you described as a pioneer of your generation. But just reflecting on those young people that are also producing art within the Nigerian context, what do you think we can do to support in terms of, one, making sure that their works are seen and respected at home, but also on the global stage?
One of the major things that sells the arts faster, it's about the platform, and because no matter how great a piece of art is, as long as it's not properly showcased to the right audience, it might never be of any worth. So it's we are still craving to have a bigger platform for the arts, especially for the creative arts in Nigeria. The music is not doing badly. It's doing great at the moment. I mean, kudos to Bonner and Whiskey for giving us Grammys, and Nollywood is doing great. But the arts in Nigeria is still not where it needs to be. I think we need to create more policies that would aid that. We need more private organizations that could partner, with artists, to be able to have a bigger projection of our works. And we need to go more global than local, because locally we've been able to create the right products, but then we need to put it on a global market, because that's where the real deal is.
Great, thank you for that. And we'll just take a small look at the comments that are coming. So just to remind our audiences, thank you very much for joining us this evening, particularly for the Urhobos who are watching. Just a reminder that we are also on Clubhouse. If you just search for Urhobo, you will find us on Clubhouse, where we are having conversations and discussions about all things Urhobo, and having opportunities to have conversations such as this with eminent sons and daughters of the Urhobo community, and of which Akporode is definitely one of our eminent sons and daughters. So we're very grateful for you joining us tonight. A number of our people have made comments. Sandra again saying that art is much bigger than our geographical location. And Joseph, please God, don't let Nigeria kill this wonderful dream. Make it great. I completely agree. And Gigi Diggs is saying that, I think joining from the United States as well, that very deep insight, which is very, very important, of course. So there's a number of comments there. Again, if you have questions, please just ask, and we will make sure that we can put it to Akporode this evening. I just want to take a quick look at one of your pieces again, because what amazes me is the sort of intricacy of the pieces. Sometimes you look at them and you think, oh my goodness, how has this been put together? So maybe you can talk to us. We've kind of explored the more vision and the more insight part of your creative process. But the actual physical work, what does that look like? What does it take to put something like this together? Talk to us about the process you go through to pull this together.
Yeah, I think this is self-worth. This is self-worth, mid 2015. And that took about over 4,000 pieces of cutleries. My works my cutleries of note, they are pure stainless steel. That is, they don't rust, so they are real authentic stainless steel cutleries. And my works is it goes through several processes, especially currently it's more intense than they used to be. But basically most of the stages are the conceptual parts of the work, and then you engage with sourcing for materials or subjects that best express the ideas that you have, and from there, for the birds, what I do is basically create a temporary structure, what we call an armature. But my armature is very unconventional because it's not completely built. I enhance on it while I work, and then once the armature is built, the cutleries are cut, and the areas that I want from the cutleries are separated. You have two parts, you have the scoop and then the handles. Then I start to weld all the cutleries bit by bit. So it's quite a highly meticulous process, but for me, over the time, it's become very therapeutic, because working with cutleries will almost completely slow you down. because you have to go from one to the other and to the other. So naturally, it will slow you down. You can't hasten it. And then also because of the level of details that I try to achieve, so it's completely will slow you down and put you on your heels because I don't take chances when I work. I want to make sure that every detail is taken note of. So it's a whole lot of process. Some of them take over 3 months to come up with, and some I've had pieces that has spanned over like a year, start to finish. So it completely depends on this one, depend on the size, depend on the intricacy of the piece as well.
Thank you very much. As I said to you earlier, I'm a fan of spoons, so I've submitted myself to be one of your students. So I'm going to be coming to study the entire process and learn from you. And I think, of course, given as you said, the time it takes, I'm sure at the end of it, with the pieces that you've produced, is the effort is definitely worth it. So, well done for everything that you've achieved. Now, just for those who want to know, are there places where your work are currently displayed? Are they all held by private owners, or where can people go and see the pieces of work that you currently have? And then we'll talk a little bit about what you're working on for the future.
Oh, my works are mostly best place actually to view my work is via my social media handles, especially my Instagram. And for you to see my works live, I have works in display in a gallery in Lagos. Then of course privates and collectors as well.
Great. So we have some people watching. I hope that someday we'll be able to exhibit some of your work here in the United Kingdom and perhaps in the United States, because I think people of African descent all over the world, and just people more generally, would really be interested in seeing the pieces that you have produced. Because I recall how much mileage there was in the BBC interview and the BBC kind of mini documentary on your work. So hopefully that's something we can look to arrange in the future.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm particularly currently interested in showing. I have a few people who has lots of interest in having my work displayed, in UK and in the US. So I'm particularly looking forward to showing in the shorter time, more international. Yeah.
Great. All right, tell us what you're working on now. I know you're preparing for an exhibition in Lagos, so just tell us what the timing of that and potentially what you're doing in preparation. What sort of pieces should people be looking forward to?
Yeah, for some time now, I've been working on a series of work that I titled The Nonconformist. Yeah, the Nonconformist tells stories of young ladies. It's more concentrated with ladies, and that's because I've looked at my mother over the years and see how hard she has fought, how hard she has struggled to stay strong as a lady, as a woman, and be able to protect, defend, love, and make sure her children are in good state. So the Nonconformist is a series of works, that tells the stories of ladies who have struggled over time and yet been able to achieve a great excellence. So it's a series I've been working on, and I've had most of them, a lot of them collected. So I've actually decided to have most of them run as a solo exhibition. It's kind of mini solo, sort of, but it's hoped to be something very extraordinary because there are going to be pieces that people have not seen before, and I'm introducing a couple of more mediums that I have not had in public display before. So it's a body of work that would actually take you beyond just the cutleries, that you've seen over time. But I'm working more with a lot of materials that have not been in public space before, and infusing different materials because it's not just the cutleries. I'm a multimedia artist. I've worked with lots of mediums over the years. So I'm infusing all of these multiple mediums into most of the pieces. And it's going to be very stunning. And I'm looking forward to October actually for my next show.
Great. You've convinced me. I'll be booking my ticket for Nigeria for October. So that's
Yeah, I'll be
great. So
glad to have you.
we must be there to support and also to enjoy. It's interesting. The last point you just made, I think, is important for the audience to know that you're not just a sculptor, you're also a painter. So maybe just talk to us a little bit about your paintings. You're known now as the spoon sculptor, but hopefully people will come to know the sheer array of talent that is Akporode. So talk to us about your paintings.
Well, I think the tendencies for sculptors to paint is it's there. You look at Michelangelo, who doubled as a sculptor and as a painter, who is also one of my early mentors, influence as an artist. And you look at the likes of Damien Hayes, who double as a sculptor and as a painter. And these are basically my influencers, over the years. So like I said earlier, I'm a multimedia artist. I work with multiple mediums, and I paint and draw massively. But the thing is, I have really not made up my mind to have them shown in public space at all. So they are more at the moment made for my personal consumption. You know, um, it's easier, much more easier sometimes for me to express myself in forms of drawings and painting. So you might find some things that are you won't see in my sculptures reflecting in my paintings or installation pieces. But in a very short time, I hope to do an exhibition of a couple of the other pieces that I do in installations and paintings. To note, most of my paintings are done on large scale canvas pieces, and very experimental as well.
Amazing. I can't look for I can't wait to see some of those pieces that you've mentioned. The one sitting behind you, I wonder, is that um, maybe just talk to us about that. We can see a little peek. Is that work in progress or a finished piece?
It's still work in progress, but that piece was a piece that was made in March, somewhere around March 2020, last year. And it was made at a time when people were having indecision or dilemma over the pandemic, and then they talk about the vaccine which we're currently dealing with. The decision either to take the vaccine, that was upcoming from March, if it's something that we should take or something we should do without. So you have someone who, if you see the piece on a larger scale, you see a snake, which is a symbol for the vaccine, and then you have the mask over the young girl's face, which is trying to protect yourself against the virus.
Thank you for that. That's something that we should look forward to as well. Let me just touch on a little thing. I think part of the reason for having conversations like this is almost in a sense to also show a different face of Nigeria, because sometimes when people hear about Nigeria, there's a lot of negative things, issues to do with youth restiveness, young people on the streets and campaigning rightly to address the challenges and difficulties that they face. But I think it's also good to see a young person like you at that sort of cerebral level producing pieces that are telling a story of Nigeria that the world needs to hear. So I think really congratulations to you for everything that you're doing in that space.
Thank you.
We'll just look to the comments and then we're going to come to rounding up. So some of it seems like you have some new fans because they're commenting regularly now on you. So this comment: all roads lead to Nigeria, November
Whoa.
2021 for this exhibition. So that's from the US as well. So I think it's very important that there is support for the work that you're doing and for the plans that you have.
I'm
And
honored.
certainly, as
I'm
I've
deeply
said,
honored.
I think anything that we can do to support, to promote that exhibition and to ensure that it's as successful as it needs to be, we'll be very happy to do so.
I appreciate that completely.
Great. So we're coming to the end. Just again to our audience, if you do have further questions, this is the last chance to put those questions. We will be sharing on the Urhobo World platform and our partner platforms the sort of social media handles for Akporode, so that if you want to see more of his work, you can access his Facebook, Instagram, and other platforms to see the work that he has put forward, which I have seen and I think are all excellent pieces of work. I've seen one of the, I think it's probably the largest of all the work that you've produced, the horse. I think it's called the Sagittarius.
Yes, Sagittarius. It's actually not the largest. My
Right.
largest at the moment is the Queen Edia, the warrior queen.
The Warrior Queen.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'd be great to see that piece, and maybe we'll share a story about that as well. But that horse is very, very imposing as a
Yeah,
figure.
it
What
is.
was the genesis of that particular piece?
That piece was a follow-up piece for the original commission that I got with it's a brand here in Lagos. You know, they made a commission for a piece, and then someone came around and said he wanted it's same piece. And as of my culture, I actually don't have the practice of replicating any of my pieces. You know, so all of my pieces that you get to see are purely original. You know, you find works in series, but you will never find uh, another copy of any of my piece. You know, so I've built the culture of making sure all my pieces are original. So what I've done with that piece was to move deeper away from the initial one, which of course has helped me to beat the record of the first one. You know, and that piece, like I said, it's also it's a commission piece, you know, by a collector here in Lagos, and it's over 6 feet tall, and it has multiple mediums of the cutleries. If you notice, you have nuts, bolts and nuts, and you have the bronze material on the bowl and arrow. You know, so it's completely infusing multiple mediums on it, and further driving the level of details, you know, on the piece as well.
Thank you for sharing that. So I think it's been an excellent conversation, and I know people are definitely excited to hear what you have to share. This is exactly what we want to do with this sort of conversation, is to shine a light on excellence, because
Thank
I
you.
know that our media, in terms of the Nigerian media and sometimes perhaps the broader African media, are not often concentrated and focused in the way that they should on some of the talent that is coming from the continent. And I think it's so important, which is why we work with Sparks Africa, thinking about ways in which we can celebrate excellence from the African diaspora, the African community worldwide, no matter where you are, no matter where you're born, that we can celebrate those successes as a way of inspiring the next generation. So I hope young people watching you today have really, seen the excellence that you bring, and hopefully they've learned from you and they can take from you, and hopefully some of them will become artists in the future. One last comment just to share here. So this is Gigi again, just saying black excellence and ingenuity. So congratulations for all the
Thank
accolades
you.
that you're receiving from your
Thank you.
fans in the United States. So Akporode, it's been absolutely amazing to speak to you. And
Thank
I
you.
think not just as an Urhobo man, but I'm proud of the work that you have done and what you have achieved. And I know that you're going to go on to achieve a lot more and make us all proud even more. So thank you so much. Perhaps
Thank
this
you.
is just an opportunity now for you to just say some last words, any last insight that you want to provide about yourself, and then we will round up. Thank you.
I think one of the things that I've always loved to do is encourage us to tell our African stories, because there seems to be too much negativity, you know, out there about our roots, about Africa. And the best we can do is to also shine the lights on the positive energy that people are giving out there, and to encourage every African, to be engaged in helping to build our value system. Because we have a lot of misplaced priority in terms of our values, and people not paying attention to the things that actually add true value to who we are. you know. In history, we will say that the white man came and stole away most of our treasures. But if we don't do what needs to be done, there won't be history of the white man stealing away our value system anymore. But our history will still be stolen away because we've rightfully given them out. So we as Africans need to encourage ourselves and help to build our value system as Africans.
I really like that. And I was part of a conversation yesterday where people were talking about different ways in which we can begin to elevate African culture and build back the confidence, build
Yeah.
back that confidence. Whether it's in terms of promoting the African languages, promoting African culture in terms of arts, in terms of literature, in terms of music, and so on and so forth. That encouragement is really there. And I think people are, quite seeing the developments in the African Union in terms of the free trade zone that's just been agreed amongst the African nations as a great opportunity to begin to do that. And I think, as you've said, art is very much part of that journey. It's very much part of that journey. And one of those
And
things. Go on,
I'm
carry
also going
on.
to say that thank you for the platform that you have, because before now it used to be believed that Africans don't appreciate arts, and like I will always say, we don't have enough platform. So having one extra platform that adds real value to what we do and encourage young people like us, I greatly appreciate it and respect it a lot. So I'm very sure there's so much we'll do together. So thank you for the platform that you've given, and thank you for all you're doing for the Urhobo nation and to the African people of African descent.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And you're right. We need more platforms and we need to find ways to work together. And definitely, we are going to work together and, get your art out there and make sure that the rest of the world can see what I see, which is
Thank you.
absolutely masterpieces, masterclass in art creation. So thank you all very much. Thank you for the conversation as well, for the opportunity to speak to our audiences across the world. And many
Thank you.
people are saying they have thoroughly enjoyed, and thank you. So thank you so much. We're
Thank
just
you.
going to move to the last phase. So just to say to the audience, thank you for joining us this evening. I think you will agree with me that that has been an excellent conversation, and Akporode definitely has a great future ahead of him as a global artist. So we've been delighted to bring him to you. We will be having many more such conversations. Hopefully, in the next week or two, we'll be having conversations with some of our brothers and sisters in the United States who are doing things in the business sector, pretty much similar to what we've said, finding ways and means to connect all of us together to do business and to grow together and to develop together, because when we grow as individuals, we grow as a community. So delighted that you have joined. Thank you so much, and we look forward to coming back to you in the next few weeks. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank